Hello and welcome to the Author's Attic. My name is Erica Lorenzana del Villar, and today I am joined by Dr. Deenesh Sohoni of the College of William and Mary. Dr. Sohoni has done research work on globalization, immigration, and race relations. In his recent study published in Social Problems titled Restrictionist Discourse by the Numbers, the Framing of the Demographic Impacts of Immigration, Dr. Sohoni examines how restrictionist groups use the internet to construct demographic arguments and legitimize immigration as a social problem. He finds that these groups construct immigration as a demographic threat to American society. Let's listen in as he tells us more.
So the main goal of my article was to look at how groups seeking to restrict immigration to the United States use demographic data and demographic arguments to present immigration as problematic. So the main finding is that almost all the groups, regardless of their orientation, so some of the groups self-identified as crime or security type of groups and saw immigration as problematic in terms of securing the borders. Other groups self-identified as environmental groups, etc. But despite the wide range of orientations of these restrictionist groups, nearly all of them used demographic arguments and demographic data. And so 39 of the 42 had demographic arguments that they used in their arguments to restrict immigration to the United States. And I found three main demographic arguments. The first was that immigration was the main contributor to growth of US population, and that the US population was growing unsustainably due to immigration. The second argument was that a large part of this growth was due to illegal immigration. And finally, the third one is that because of where immigrants were coming from, it's changing the social composition or the demographic composition of the United States in ways that threaten social cohesion. But I think that the most interesting finding for me was how these groups used demographic data. And so one of the things I found was that the groups actually used data from official sources, or directly citing official sources, or numbers that were frequently could be found in official government sites. But they used it and presented it in somewhat biased ways. So for the first argument that population growth is unsustainable, these groups basically would use US Census projections for what the population would be in 2050 and 2100. And they argued that the population, according to the census, would be 500 million people from our current slightly over 300 million in 2050, and 1 billion by 2100. And so I ended up looking at the census projections, and what's interesting is that the census has a low series projection, a medium series projection, and a high series projection. And on the website for in 2000, when they did the projections for 2100 for the first time, they have these caveats, the Census Bureau does, which is that the high series and the low series are just the extreme numbers that are highly, highly unlikely. But the restrictionist groups use the high series numbers without any caveats and kind of report it as official government numbers. And only one of the websites said this is the high series of the census projections. And so the fascinating thing for me was that the numbers can be traced to official numbers, but they're presented in a somewhat biased way. So I think the takeaway message is immigration is a hot topic issue. We want to have informed debate about it, and having these problematized numbers that create more fearful understandings about immigrants is problematic for that larger goal.